Welcome to another Kings of War 3rd Edition Battle Report. Game night! Ratkin versus the Kingdoms of Men. The points were 2150 and the scenario was Fool's Gold. As you can see, these are not Ratkin nor are they Kingdoms of Men. What these are is the Salamander Alliance of Craig Borneman and John Helton against the Trident Realms of Sean Dietrich and the Empire of Dust of Jeff Baranski. I probably butchered his name. I'm sorry, brother. So they were playing on the table next to us. This was a game night. We used to have games night at my house, and sometimes there would be, I have a large basement with lots of tables. We would have sometimes 8 to 10 people, usually in most weeks at least 6. And this is the first time we've had 6 people here in probably over a decade. Some people wearing masks, which is cool. It's up to them. It was fun to get a lot of people together again. And so Ben and I played a solo game, and these guys decided to play a 2 versus 2 game. So I always tell everybody, bring a 1,500 point list for 2 versus 2, and then and a 2150 if you want to play a competitive game. 2150 is kind of what we're stuck on right now. I prefer 2000, but the 2150 has been kind of fun just because you can put at least one thing back into one thing in your list, that's just a little bit better, or optimize your unit just a little bit more. So really like that points level, but I'll play it any. I just, the one I don't really like is 2300, just because there's just so much nasty stuff that's so hard to deal with. And at 2000, I think it kind of, or 2150 to 2000, it kind of shoehorns you into actually thinking about the stuff instead of I'll just take 5 of the best thing. So anyway, that's what we're doing on our game night, and wish we had some more pictures. If we do, I'll post them up on the after the battle report. But this is the only one I have. But anyway, this was a great time last night. 6 people, so much fun. This is a list that Sam Norberg made, and he won the Best of the Rest tournament. I don't know if he won. I'm pretty sure he did. But this is a 2150 point version of the list, and so I did make some modifications to it, and some of it for the better, some of it, I don't know. But so the what I did is I took 4 regiments of pike, and I had 2 with Indomitable Will. I separated them out because those guys had big giant shields like Romans, so those were the ones with Indomitable Will. I had 2 hordes of foot guards with Indomitable Will, 3 troops of berserkers, an ASB with the loot, 3 generals on Winged Beast, 1 with the Blade of the Beast Slayer, 1 with the Mace of Crushing, 1 with the Sword of Slashing. Then I had just 2 individual heroes, both with Indomitable Will and a horse. So I've got to say the list was great last night. The general was not very great, so don't fault the list for this game for me. I think maybe if I was going to change anything, I think I would try to figure out how to get Indomitable Will on all the pikemen, because part of the way this list works is to hold, and then you can charge something else into it to flank them. I think it would have worked better if the pikemen could have used their Indomitable Will and then added their swings. I mean, the fanatics are hit pretty hard, but but that's just one unit. So if you had like the pikemen could have Indomitable Will, so when they're wavered, they're not such a liability then. So I think maybe what I'm going to do next time, even just shave some points somewhere and put Indomitable Will on all the pikemen. You can see in this picture, just to show you, see the guys there with the spears kind of pointed out on the far right? Those were my guys with Indomitable Will. And the guys here in the middle with just the pikes sticking straight up did not have Indomitable Will. And of course, they were in the action the entire game. So that kind of tells me right there that probably wasn't that putting Indomitable Will on all the pikes would probably have been better. It probably suits my personal play style just a little bit better. So anyway, it's a great list. Like I said, Sam Nordberg made it. The 2300 point versions, I just pared it down to fit 2150 points, and I really like it. And hopefully, when I get some more practice in, I'll do a little bit better with it. This is Ben's 2150 list. I know it well because I use virtually the same list. I think the difference in mine is he has 2 brood mothers. I have 2 war chiefs. So I think that's really the major difference between them. His has 5 regiments of warriors, 2 hordes of shock troops, 1 with the blessing of the gods, horde of tunnel runners with the brew of sharpness, a mutant rat fiend, 2 brood mothers, the scud, and a war chief on a mount, and I think he has a magic item, probably Blade of Slashing or Mace of Crushing, but I'm not exactly positive which item that guy might have on him. First thing I want to do is apologize because I did not take a tremendous amount of pictures. My video camera was acting up, which I usually use to record the battle and then go back later and edit it. So kind of spotty on the pictures this game. This is my right flank. I stuck 3 units of pikemen straight across from each other. In between each one was a troop of berserkers. The ASB is standing behind the middle berserker troop, so he can basically cover the whole middle of the table there. Made the mistake here, and you'll see this throughout the game. I had more drops. I had 15 drops, which is a lot of drops for 2150, I think it is. Anyway, what I should have done was deploy that unit of foot guard, which are stuck behind all those troops there. I should have stuck them over here on the right flank, because if you see up there in the corner, that's where the number 2 was for me to try to win the game. And instead, I don't know, I've been such a good player, I get intimidated, and so I really wasn't thinking about my deployment as well. Plus, this is, to be honest, the first time I have played this army, and I'll learn that lesson the next time. Up there, he had 3 regiments of slaves, then his 2 hordes of shock troops right in the middle, and then I'll show you the other side. So this is my left flank. I put all 3 of the generals together. Next to them was a unit of pikes with Indomitable Will, and then another unit of berserkers, and the 2 lone heroes were kind of sandwiched in there because I was trying to use it to block his big stuff at some point. Over there he had this last 2 regiments of warriors. Then he had the tunnel runner with the roof sharpness. The scud is right in the middle. Then the mutant rat fiend, and I think that's his chieftain right behind one of those, but I'm not exactly sure where he was hiding. So anyway, that was his deployment. I threw all my flying stuff over there to prevent that stampede of 3 nasty things coming at me. That was my plan. We'll see how it goes. Okay, I instantly knew that I deployed incorrectly when I started having to angle those foot guard and move them toward the corner of the table, and now I've got a piece of blocking terrain there and the woods to go through, so I'm not going to get there anytime soon. Matter of fact, I don't think I actually make it past where they're at right now. Everything else just moved forward, and I should have been more aggressive. I should have just pushed all the pikemen up right to the front and just see what happened, because I have 3 flanking generals over there, so if something takes the bait, it should be able to do it. And the thing is that the odds are is you should want to lose the guys in front of you at some point and then hit them with the foot guard. So plan was not good. I think the biggest issue, and then Ben said it after, I jammed up the foot guard. I probably could have just stuck them on each flank, and just out without any protection, any chaff with them, because I had so many units and I had those flyers. So that's where, like I say, you see the mistake I made. But the game really was a standoff most of the game, and it really was like 2 turns of action and then it was over. So anyway, this is the first turn of my movement. So over here I just nimble moved the all three generals off to the left, just trying to get some angles on the fence. And like I said, see, here is one of the places where if I would have pushed those troops up and enticed a first turn charge, then those 3 flyers could have really done a good job, I think, on cleaning up whatever it is, because by themselves they can't clean up anything, but all 3 of them pretty much hurt anything. So here, like I said, I was too tentative. If you look, just like I said, the great swords there, it's not great swords, foot guard should have been over to the left behind that wall versus being right where they were at. And again, first time I played the army, I'll learn. Or either that, or even the other thing, they could have been just a little further back so they could actually maneuver. I had them so jammed in right there, and I knew he couldn't fly over behind me, but I don't know what I was thinking. Probably beer had something to do with it. So Ben just moved forward a little bit, kept everything online, trying to stay out of range of the 3 flying generals. And something he pointed out later, if I would have just kind of set where I was at, I would have probably been just fine this game, because I had such a good threat range between my troops and the little unit of berserkers there. They have wild charge D3, I mean, they could have sacrificed themselves against something out there or fired into a melee if they got into the middle of it. So, like I said, Ben just kept everything online, which is very smart. Did a lot of measuring, make sure. I mean, yeah, I could charge the tunnel runners with one of them. I never. I mean, that was my mistake. I should have just almost used them like a unit and had all three really at the same exact distance. And some of it, I think, is just because of the wings of the models, where I don't like to clutter them up together. I do have one unpainted model, as you will notice, will morph into a painted model partway through the game because Sean let me borrow his General on Wing Beast, and but I was just starting. I'm just now starting to build this list. I have one General on Wing Beast is painted up to what I consider the standard for this army, and then I have an old one that I used in my Altdorf army. I rebased it. It needs some repairs. It must have got dropped because I mean it looks like it's green stuff together, so I need to go in there and fix it. The other one I just now started to paint, but I had a painted rider, so I stuck it on there, which was fine. But the but I just haven't had a chance to finish the army. Right now, I mean, it's starting to look good. I mean, I have to paint, I think, 5 more great swords. I mean, not great swords, foot guards, so they all match. I mean, right now, it's pretty close. But I only need a very few more of those to make that unit look identical in uniform. And then over on this other side, the other unit of foot guard are actually going to all be Tübingen Guard, since I've now accumulated the models to do it. But right now, they are old Reichsguard foot knights, and probably, I mean, I probably got 30 of those guys on Fleabay right now. That's probably $300 worth of units if you could find, or models if you could find somebody that's foolish enough to buy them. So I've had those units, gosh, since the 90s. So anyway, I mean, I've accumulated models for a long time for the Kingdoms of Men. So on this flank, I stuck the one of the units of pikemen out front. In retrospect, I probably should have just pushed everything forward and just, yeah, he would have a massive amount of charges, but I think I could have had a massive amount of counter charges and probably had a good chance of busting through his lines. But I was just so timid this game. I don't know what my problem was, but I was hoping to provoke a charge on those pikemen there, and I think I did. And Heroes, one thing is his guys will never hurt me because of hitting on 6s. But the problem is I'm hitting on 4s and 4s, which is not exactly awesome either. So I mean, I'm doing 2 to 3 wounds a turn. It ain't, I mean, and then I think I rolled horribly on top of that. I think I did like 1 wound the first round we fought, so it was not good. Over here, I did the same thing. I kind of pushed one unit out there so it could be charged, and then hoped I could come back in. But you see, I'm so jammed up there, I really couldn't exploit it even if I did. The 3 birds just kind of held their ground because I wanted to try to catch the tunnel runners by themselves or the mutant rat fiend by itself and hit him with 2 because I think I could take him out with 2. But as it was, he so wisely he kept me from. I mean, if I wanted to charge something, I could charge it by itself. What I probably should have done with that far left bird was just turned it and flew behind his army, tried to fly behind his army and see what I could do over there. But it was too late for that. Now I was kind of in this stalemate game here because the 2 counter is behind that hedge right there or near that hedge. And like I said, if I had just stayed still right here, I could have probably denied that from him for the whole game. So yeah, I finally get off my butt, decide I probably need to walk over there and try to get that token, and moved the units forward, the whole army forward this time on the right flank. Still held back the guys on the left because I was afraid of that unit or of shock troops coming over the hill, and probably should have just moved my base up on the hill so I could see over it and maybe do some better support, but I screwed that up too. So anyway, this is me finally getting off my duff and moving forward. Okay, I really do the same thing on the left side. It's time to move, and like I said, you can see where that 1 unit of berserkers, he probably should have been. I mean, I've got wild charge. I should have been, I think, even with the front of the pikemen, so that I could possibly get a wild charge off on his units and jam them up for a turn to keep them from coming over the table. I mean, they're unbreakable, so yeah, they'll die quick. But on the other hand, they're really good chaff in that perspective because yeah, they hit like a ton, and then they die. And so that way they're out of your way. And I should have moved them up, I think, to the edge of that hill so I could see over the top. There was something making me not do it, but I cannot for the life of me now see what it was. So I think it's either turn 3 or 4 when the first fight started. He went ahead and charged his shock troops into my unit of pikemen and wavered them with a good roll. And over on the right flank, his warriors charged into the front of the pikemen and didn't do any damage. But again, you see where I'm kind of jammed up here. If I would have had that, I mean, it didn't really matter. These units are here on this side. It does not matter for the scenario for me. I should have had the foot guard to the right side of that impassable terrain going for that 2 that's in the back, because it would have changed how he moved as well. I think there was a 1 in front of me, right in front of, right behind my ASB there, just out of the picture. So he was headed toward that one. But see here, I mean, I've let myself get pinched a little bit. So we'll have to see what happens further on. You can see over here the other unit of shock troops had slammed into my other unit of pikemen. And the thing is if you'll notice this, is that that's 30 swings. And those 2 units, even though one was wavered, the other one held. And see, the ASB is standing right there in case one of them would have blown the roll. But they held. That was the important part of how the strategy works. Now, the bad thing is I have nothing to really to exploit it except that one stupid troop of berserkers there. His mutant rat fiend had charged into my other unit of pikemen, and they held as well. I'm pretty sure they held. They held as well. So that was all good. I mean, this part of my plan worked well. I mean, that's the problem with Ratkin, since I'm a Ratkin player, is without being able to hit on 3s, it is really hard to hurt somebody with ensnare, and that makes them very problem. And there's just not anything. And in his army, I think he only had 3 models that hit on 3s. The Scud, the Tunnel Runners with sharpness, and I think his Chieftain hit on 3s. So everything else was going to be a crapshoot as far as hitting those pikemen. So yeah, this is just a better picture over on the left side of the table. You notice that the General on Wing Beast has now morphed into a beautiful award-winning model, where he was an unpainted piece of crap. So that's what's happening on this side. The pikemen do hold up the mutant rat fiend, and now his flank is hanging in the wind to be charged by something. Same thing for the shock troops. Their flank is hanging in the wind there as well to be charged. But this is the masterful part of his plan, because I get greedy and charge 3 things at once instead of trying to concentrate on doing just to absolutely make sure that something is killed. So anyway, it was just such an exciting turn as far as my ability to countercharge next turn. So yeah, my turn, the mutant rat fiend bit it. I went ahead and charged. This is where the mistake was. I killed the mutant rat fiend. I charged into the flank of those shock troops. Didn't actually need to do that, because I had my foot guard there to defend against those shock troops no matter what. So I kind of blew it there. I charged one of the generals into the to the unit of regiment of warriors over in the woods, because there was a point there, and I thought I might as well try to score a point in this game. And of course, the general on Winged Beast is standing there facing the Scud, which is never a good thing. And my pikemen, though victorious, are standing there in front, and really not in that bad a shape. But like I said, if I would have either held back one of the generals or not, I should have held back 2 of them, actually. I should have just used 1 to get rid of the mutant rat fiend, and then I still would have had 2 sitting back here in reserve. Because at some point in time, he's going to move over the table, over too close to me, then I'll be able to jump those guys over them. Right now, if they would have stayed there, I would have been able to kind of hold back a little bit and keep him from trying to get. But he's trying to get to this 2 in the corner. Like I said, really, if I'd have just left all 3 flyers there, I probably could have held that the whole game. My mistake. So yeah, his response, it wasn't good for me. So the one of his warrior regiments charges my wavered pikemen in the flank. And see, this is where I was saying, if I had indomitable will, I don't know if I could have broke those shock troops, but I sure could have put a lot more hurt on them in that go, because I mean, I did a lot of damage with the berserkers, and so I really think I could have like I say, I don't know if I would have won the fight or broke them. I doubt that. But on the other hand, it would have been better if those guys weren't wavered. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that they would have been a better. I mean, and honestly, it'd have been better if they died than better than being wavered and sitting right in front of me like that. So that's what I was saying about the indomitable will. If you're not dead, you need to be swinging. So that's where, like, I'm trying to figure out how to get the points in the list, and I may just drop the Beast Slayer blade off the general. I don't know if I need it or not. Since he's already crushing 3 on the charge, it doesn't really seem like I need it a whole lot with those guys. So I may do that and then give those 2 pikeman regiments indomitable will as well. But I did lose the pikemen, and I believe the shock troops actually killed the berserkers instead of that, because he already had that guy going to kill me, and then the shock troops could kill the berserkers there, fanatics, whatever they're called. So you want to see a glaring mistake. The over here, this is the start of his next turn. He had moved his one of his slave regiments up and just marched onto the 2-point objective. I had vacated it like an idiot. Just stupid. I mean, if I'd have kept one of those generals back, that's all it would have taken to prevent the loss of that. I mean, I wouldn't have gained anything, but I wouldn't have lost the 2-point objective. So that was a bad thing. So yeah, it's went pear-shaped now. The the Scud charges into one of my generals on Winged Beast, and unfortunately, like I'm a moron, because the one with the Blade of the Beast Slayer is off to the other side fighting regular troops. Kind of dumb. Up in the corner, his chieftain and I think both regiments of warriors get together and destroy the general on Winged Beast up there eventually. I'm not sure exactly how long it took, but it wasn't very long, because I mean they were getting, he had rear attack, he had side attack from the chieftain, he had the guys in the front, and it was not good. It was not a good move at all. Like I said, if I would have just kept him in reserve, I would have been fine, but I'm a dumbass. So the only reason this picture's in here is to show you my really cool looking unit of Reichsguard Foot Knights from the late 80s and early 90s. So yeah, the battle on this flank is essentially over. I think maybe I could kill. We didn't roll it out, but I should have been able to kill the shock troops because they were pretty well wounded. But there was no way I was getting to any tokens. The 2 is in the corner. I can't get to it because, like I said, I jammed up my own guys and just could not get in. He's blown through the middle now, which is what's supposed to happen. And I should have had, if anything, that unit of foot guard should have been back here in the bottom, down near the ASB, to exploit this. But I jammed myself up, and it was just a bad mistake. Yep, the door is closing on this grim scene. I did flank charge the pikemen into the side of the Scud and did not roll particularly well. I mean, it was 30 attacks for 4, should have been 15. It's probably about right. Probably 5 or 6 wounds to him. And my general, Winged Beast, had been wavered by him before. He had 8 wounds on him, so he didn't even get to swing back. Might have helped the cause, but again, we're playing this scenario. You can see I have no chance of getting any points because I have screwed around too long, and he already has 2 down here in this corner. And I think in the end, I think he has 5 points to my none. That, like I said, live and learn some about the game. I did charge my hero into his, and I did a good job, I think, with these stupid lone heroes. I just used them to keep knocking Thunder's charge off of his stuff, off of his tunnel runners. And like I say, it's not the best use of it, but hey, at least it keeps them not to be quite so awesome. So yeah, this is the last picture I took. I had Bane chanted into the warriors there. I think I got him up, but I don't think I did anything to him. The ASB just moved up there to throw Bane chant. And the general on my turn 6, 5, whatever it is, maybe 5, went ahead and charged those shock troops in the flank and probably would have destroyed them. And the other shock troops probably would have died to the foot guard charge down here, since both of those units were wavered. So I don't think that they would have made it another turn, but it doesn't matter because in this time he has I think 5 points of objectives and I have none. So we just called it. There was no reason to roll out battles just for the hell of rolling out battles. We're not playing a tournament, so there's no attrition. So I just shook his hand and for a fine game, and I learned a lot. One of the things that really stood out to me about Sam's article on Dash 28 was his idea that he played 40 to 50 games with this list before he took it to a tournament. And this is my first game, so I have a little bit of a learning curve. And he even told me that this army was a little difficult to get your arms around uh, when I talked to him a few weeks ago. So I think that a little bit more practice, a little bit better deployment, and I think I would have been fine. Um, Patience, I understand now what he's saying, that his army doesn't expect to charge until turn 3 or 4, and I get it. I get exactly how it works now. Um, but really, in this game, misdeployment was jamming up those great swords behind, great swords, foot guard behind things was the mistake, because they could have just as easily been out on the flank, on each flank, and started going for those objectives. So I really like the list. I really like how it works. I think I will drop the Blade of the Beast Slayer off one of the generals and give those 2 units of pikes Indomitable Will as well. Like I said, I just don't want them freezing in front of me and getting me killed, which is exactly what they did in this one section of the battle. So just got to be thinking about it again. And then, there's a lot of things I would do differently in this game if I would have thought about it. Horse deployment was one of them. I had 15 drops. I was going to outdrop him by 2 or 3 drops. So that was big as far as, and I think he had to deploy first on top of that. So I would have had, another advantage there, since I could drop last. The over on the left flank, if I would have just kept the 3 flyers, and when I piecemealed out the 1 flyer to go kill those warriors, that was just dumb. If I would have held them back, I could have easily kept him from getting the 2-point objective with just that 1 flyer, because warriors aren't usually going to kill anything. They're for doing what they're doing exactly in this picture, which is flank charging stuff. And now they have a decent number of attacks, even though they hit on 5s. So like I said, mistakes were made, things were done, can't take them back now. On the other hand, Ben is a master player. He's won best general at a bunch of events. He's a really, really good player and way more patient than I am. So I think if I could learn his patience, I think that would go a long way to improving my gameplay. Just sitting there watching him, measuring and being methodical in the way he does things is really inspiring. As far as I'm just too haphazard. I think it's from Craig and I playing, because we like to go fight each other, just blood each other all to our face. And Ben's a lot more thoughtful and actually thinks about what he's going to do, as opposed to just pushing troops forward like we do sometimes. But really nice to have him come up from Cleveland. It's a long drive. Well, it's over an hour, like an hour and 15 minutes. It's not a huge bad drive, but it's still. He took time out of his day off to come up here and play a game, which I'm really appreciative. And like I said, I learned a lot in this game about my own army. Kind of knew what his army did, because I essentially played the same list. So, and he played it masterfully, just like I figured he would. So anyway, thanks for watching the battle report. I hope you learned something. I know I did, which is the reason why I do battle reports. Even if nobody else watches them, I can go back and look at them later and see what I did wrong, and hopefully not do it again. Again, thank you for watching.